Hi, Livin Guardians. Unseen Inquisitor here. Welcome to New Light Basics. This is a video series in which we take a look at a particular topic per video and go over it with the lens of a newer light, right? Taking what we know and imparting it to any newer lights that might be watching or stumbling across this as a resource to help them out in where to go, what to do, or what to look out for, and things to keep in mind to feel less confused, less lost, and more efficiently able to navigate the Tower of Power. You know, navigating your path to power is always a bit easier with a map, and that's the idea of this series. So pull up a chair, sit down, hang out, and share your thoughts, new or old light, in the comment sections down below and be part of the conversation. Alright, Guardians, it's time to check out the Warlock for what I would do in a new light build situation if I was in that situation again. Now, this is my main class, and this build is actually my go-to build for endgame content and anything where I'm not worried about a particular surge. So I have some experience here. With that said, we will be checking out what I call the Lich build, and we're going to look at it in its undying form, or trying to make an undying Lich out of this build, right? It all depends on your performance and what you're facing, but the idea is maximum survivability here with this build. That's why I'm running what I'm running. We will see in action without Controverse Hold, the exotic for this particular build. The reason we're looking at Controverse Hold over something like Nezarec Sin or whatever else is because this is the exotic we get from my core raised exotic quest chain for the Void Warlock. So let's check out the gauntlets real quick, then we'll check out the build, and then we'll see it in action. So Controverse Hold is exotic gauntlets, and they are the first of the exotics we're seeing from my core array in videos like this that is subclass specific and aspect specific. This must be using a Void Walker that can charge their grenades. The other two that we saw, the Titan and the Hunter exotics, were subclass neutral. This one is not. So, Chaotic Exchanger, we resist incoming damage while charging your Void Grenade, and charge Void Grenades return grenade energy on a hit. This has an internal cooldown timer, more or less, but we can get it to happen potentially twice per grenade that we throw when we have everything going off, and it's just added fuel to our grenade energy fire, as grenades will be our go-to ability usage for this build. That is our spell of choice, quote unquote, as a Lich. So with that said, that's Controverse Hold, but we'll see this build without Controverse Hold used just to see in action without any exotics, because it's very capable without any exotics. Let's dive into the abilities and such. So of course, unlock Void Walker if you don't start with it. I don't know what Warlocks start with as a new light, but if you don't start Void Walker, definitely unlock it ASAP and get that quest going ASAP. Super wise, run whatever super you want. I like Nova Bombs, particularly Cataclysm, of its ease of launching it and being able to go about my business. But if you like Nova Warp, run it, right? Dealer's choice there. When it comes to class abilities, the Healing Rift is fantastic. It's a great rift to keep you alive. Obviously, healing for newer lights, getting used to the game and everything, is a go-to rift of choice. This build could also use Empowering, for sure, but we're doubling down on the whole aspect of staying alive here, so if we need a rift of healing, we got it in our back pocket. Whatever jump you want, run. I run Balance Glide. Remember, it's a glide. It functions like a glider. Knowing that and mastering that will give you the best jump in the game, and I'll die on that hill. Anyways, moving on. Pocket Singularity. This is a utility melee. It can kill, don't get me wrong, but when it hits the target, it pushes the target away from you and makes them volatile. So it's nice, but it's a little bit unstable, hence, as it says, an unstable ball of void energy. It's the only melee we have, unfortunately. We used to have other ones pre-Void 3.0, and just know that if you want to make sure you're killing an enemy with this, you want to weaken them with some weapon fire first and then hit them. Vortex Grenade is the grenade of choice for most Void builds. This one is no exception. It's a AoE grenade that pulls targets towards its center, so it makes them take more damage before they escape, if they manage to escape at all. So aspects, we're running Feed the Void. Gives us 2 fragment slots, and it is the ability that gives us Devour, right? Or the aspect, I should say, that gives us Devour, because Defeating a target with a Void ability activates Devour. When we have Devour, final blows restore you to full health, grant grenade energy, and extend Devour. And when you first get Devour, this also happens. And it's any final blow from your weapons, on power melee, abilities, whatever. We're feasting on the energy of our defeated foes, as it says, much like a Lich will kind of steal souls and feed off of souls classically in a lot of fantasy settings. So we are becoming the Lich with Devour. Devour started with Void Walker Warlocks. While there is a fragment that lets any Void subclass get Devour, clearly here is where it originated, and even pre-Void 3.0, it was one of the aspect nodes of Void 1.0 and 2.0. Anyways, with that said, moving on. Chaos Accelerant is another aspect that we're running, and we have to run it to pair with Controverse Hold. This gives us 2 fragment slots now. It used to only give 1, so having an extra fragment slot is very nice. So we overcharge our grenades, and it can work for several grenades, but the one we care about is Vortex. It increases the size and linger duration of the Vortex, which is very nice for our purposes. We're going to double down on that with Echo of Remnants. Your linger grenade effects, such as Vortex, have increased duration. So with this and the aspect that fully charged thrown Vortex grenade is larger, lasts way longer, and that's going to be great for our ad clearing and even boss damage and everything else. Echo of Instability. Defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to your Void weapons. I run this because I run Void weapons with this build. If for some reason you're just not going to do that, you don't need this. But being that the theme of this build is to be an Undying Lich and use our grenades heavily, this feeds into that theme by further kind of enchanting, if you will, our weapons temporarily if they're Void. And Volatile is very nice for the explosions, of course, and to pierce barrier champions to stun them, which is also very nice. A very handy toolbox kind of capability, since we're going to be doing this a lot, getting grenade final blows. So, with that said, Echo of Undermining, it's a big -20 discipline hit, but because of Devour, we don't care, right? We get our grenades back remarkably fast with Devour, constantly proccing on kills, and this lets our grenades weaken targets. And being able to apply weaken with our grenade is super handy. Our grenades going out everywhere all the time, and even on bosses, this is really nice for us and our fire team. Echo of Starvation. This is kind of a swing slot. I used to run Expulsion here to make targets explode because explosions are cool. But Echo of Starvation doubles down on the concept of being that Undying Lich, right? So picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour. Now we don't make Void Breaches with this build, but we make plenty of orbs. So in a situation where we run out of Devour, our abilities are not charged, and we need to get Devour back ASAP, we're going to have plenty of orbs around. This is why I don't run the class item mod that pulls the orbs towards you to pick them up when you use your class ability, because I want them there in the event I need to get Devour going again and start that train rolling. So this is why I run Echo of Starvation. With that said, let's check out the armor mods. Now, as a newer light, you're not going to be able to have masterworked armor, but that's okay. You can either go to 6 energy like I recommend in the base of the builds as the max to go for, or just go for 3. I'm going to tell you what mod you should prioritize where it matters. So let's get right to it. Helmets. Ashes to assets in your helmet is the way to go. This is the priority mod for you. You gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. I run Harmonic Siphon, Rapid Void Weapon Final Blows, create an overpower. Harmonic basically means whatever your subclass is. Because I use Void weapons a lot in this build, so Harmonic Siphon is going to happen for orbs. And since I run a Void Machine Gun, Heavy Ammo Finder to get more ammo is nice, but that's pretty optional. So is Harmonic Siphon if you're not going to be doing that stuff. But Ashes to Assets is the mod to make sure you're running for sure. On arms, it's Firepower is your priority. Your grenade final blows create orbs of power. With that, I run Grenade Kickstart. When you expend your grenade energy fully, you gain grenade energy, and additionally your armor charge is consumed and you gain additional grenade energy for each stack. We're not too worried about having a high stack of armor charge. We just want the extra little bump to grenade energy to go with Contraverse Hold, to go with everything else, to help get our grenade back particularly quickly, especially if we know we're not going to kill things like a boss, but we're using it to weaken the boss or whatever else. For your chest armor, whatever resistance you want, or concussive dampener, this is kind of a freebie. Basically, if you know you're going to be in a lot of arc, you can run arc resist and whatever else, so it just depends on what you're doing here for your chest armor. Leg armor, Innervation reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an overpower. Absolution reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an overpower. And Recuperation is a little bit super redundant, and I'll probably phase this out for another Innervation, but I'm just showcasing it here in case you're really worried about staying alive. You replenish health each time you pick up an overpower, but every time I pick up an overpower when I get Devour, it seems like Devour is proccing, and it's not just giving me the buff, but actually working like I just got an ability kill to get a full health anyway. Now, it could just be coincidental, I don't know, but admittedly, I just had this here in case you're not going to run that aspect, for example, and yeah, it's a swing mod. I would say Absolution is your priority to get right away, only because this helps all abilities, and if we're going to be using our class ability with any regularity, we want to help that out to come back. And lastly, we want Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon Final Blow spawns an Orb of Power, an additional Orb Generation on top of everything else, and double Bomber because it reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. All of this is to give us our grenade as often as possible, right? And everything else to help our super and our orbs to do stuff for us. So this leads to a very survivable build. Plenty of health, full heals basically, which is really nice. So with that said, let's check out the build in action. All right, here we are back at my stomping grounds on Nessus to check out the Lost Sector. And no Contraverse Hold equipped, but we will see this build gives us plenty of grenade energy and therefore overall ability uptime because of that. So while I didn't get my grenade back, we can see just in using the grenade there, it's nearly back from just those kills, and that is how Devour works. And we got to see a little bit of the volatile rounds from the grenade kill and everything else with this SMG. Now again, this is a build about survivability and everything else, so we're not going for raw offensive power, although it's pretty much there. There's our melee killing the red bar, which is very good. And we're going to see here, we're going to see that even that box right there counts for Devour, which is very nice. So really, you're killing stuff, you're getting Devour back. And as you can see here, Devour stays up because it's a kill, even though it is a strength weapon. So that is also, as I described earlier, how it works, but it's just showing you that in action. So this is a regular Lost Sector, so it's not something super crazy in terms of slaying out, but we're just seeing the bones of how this build goes, and kind of, in a way, a bit of its rotation. And one of the things you can see is that I am not really getting melee back super fast. We're not really relying on melee here. It's a little bit of the Achilles heel of this build is that the melee doesn't come back super fast, and it's not the most volatile of or powerful of melee, but that's okay. There we saw volatile rounds. We're able to kill the Hobgoblin while it was shielding itself. That's what anti-barrier weapons would do. And also volatile rounds grants Void, which is why I like using it in this build. So there we did a little bit of a super cast to help get my grenade back. Ran out of Devour there, but got the melee back, used it, got Devour back, and the build just keeps rolling. So we're about to finish up this Lost Sector here. Very basic Lost Sector, nothing crazy, right? But it just kind of, again, gives you the feel and flow of the build. And I recommend doing something like this to get to grips with your build, so you get a feel for how they operate. So we'll check it out with Contraverse Hold now. Contraverse Hold is equipped. We're in a Legend Lost Sector that does have Void Surge, and it's only unfortunate for purposes of recording and showcasing the build without any modifiers to assist it, but in an actual situation, you would want Void Surge if you had it, right? It wouldn't be something you would be disappointed about. All it means is that we're doing a little bit of extra damage with Void, but the way the build operates and what we're doing remains exactly the same. It just takes maybe a couple of bullets less, or I take or two less of grenade damage to do the same thing. There's the power of volatile rounds, both from stunning that barrier champion and just clearing out the ads like we saw. And that's why I run that particular fragment. But as you can see, I have a strand weapon, a solar weapon, and a void weapon, because all of this and on power melees will proc devour. I have no idea why the grenade detonated there. I've thrown grenades from there no problem before, but it doesn't matter. We have devour, so that grenade's back pretty quick. So one thing you're probably going to notice, or have noticed, is that the way this build operates, the cadence to it, the blueprint of it, what I'm doing, is exactly the same, more or less, when I didn't have an exotic equipped. That's because the cadence and flow and gameplay of this build doesn't change just because you have Conjurer's Hold on. Conjurer's Hold is a fantastic exotic you get basically for free from my core array, like I said, that really enhances the build, but it's not a super overt enhancement, right? It is an enhancement in getting a bit more energy, being a little bit tougher to hurt, and overall just improving our survivability as the undying Lich we're trying to be. But in terms of the way the build plays, no real difference at all. No change in grenade usage or anything like that. And while not the ideal way I would run this build in terms of weapon usage, I'm running the Scout for Overload, which by the way is an awful way to stun overloads. The Trace Rifle is a much better way to do it in Season of the Deep. But anyway, not my optimal weapon usage. It still works though. So there's not much I can say that I wouldn't be overlapping kind of what I said in those 2 minutes without the exotic equipped, other than don't get caught up in your nigh unkillable status when you have plenty of enemies to proc devour, because when you run out of devour, you are just as killable as any other warlock. But that's okay, because we have a lot of things in our arsenal to deal with enemies when we don't have devour, and to stay alive with the healing rift like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, and so forth. So having extra trouble with overload champions because scouts aren't the best for dealing with them, but hey, we still get the job done. While we didn't have devour there, finishers also count for kills. So as long as you're killing them yourself, whether you're using the hazardous barrels and blocks like we saw in the Nessus Law Sector, or whether you're finishing them, unpowered or powered melee, grenades, supers, weapon kills, doesn't matter. You got the kill, you get devour to happen as long as you have devour, right? Then we get devour, of course, from our ability kills, and because I'm running that fragment, if I pick up an overpower, I also get devour. Very nice. So devour is so strong that that fragment is used by Titan and Hunter builds to get it themselves. It used to be a Warlock only thing. So yeah, some bragging rights there, I guess. This is my go-to build. The way the armor is, the exotic, the subclass, and some of the weaponry. The weaponry changes from a case-to-case basis, but this is what I do on my Void Warlock, or on my Warlock when I'm running it. I'm not worried about a particular surge. This is the build I run. So that it can definitely take you from the beginning to end of your gameplay experience in Destiny 2 if you so desire to use this one build for that. Not much else I can say here. Good ability uptime, nice blending of weapons and ability usage. Now right there is an example of getting fixated. One thing this build will have you do at times is get tunnel vision on always charging up your grenade. You don't always need to charge up your grenade. In that situation, I would have been served probably even better if I just chuck the grenade real quick, get the kills to get my health full, and then Devour gives me my grenade back and I can overcharge that subsequent grenade and throw it somewhere else. So you can get caught up, and I do admittedly get caught up in this a lot, of always wanting to fully charge my grenade as opposed to just throwing a grenade real quick in certain panic situations like what we just saw earlier. Anyways, with that said, not much else to say on this build. I thoroughly enjoy it, clearly, as it's my go-to Warlock build. But that is all three of of the builds that I would do in a New Light situation if I were in that situation for Hunter, Titan, and Warlock. But because they introduced these exotic quests for my core array for each subclass for each of the classes, that means we have 6 more exotics that we could get just as easily as we could get this Controverse Hold exotic from my core array. So it won't be exactly the same as doing these build videos, but I will do a build video for each of the other exotics that are obtainable from the exotic quest chain from my core array for each class. They'll be sprinkled in throughout other New Light basic videos to come, so I figured why not. They're easy to get. Some of them make some pretty cool builds. Might as well show them off. The building newer light can still get access to these fairly easily, and maybe they're just not feeling Arc Hunter, Solar Titan, or Void Warlock builds. Maybe they're feeling something else, and might as well kind of showcase some ways in which they can do that. So, again, focus on new lights, not focus on being an established player, because new lights are kind of what those exotic quests are geared towards. And it's pretty cool that it is going to give you, you'll be getting exotic armor much easier for some exotic, specific exotic pieces anyway, than it was in the past, which really leads to you running builds that much faster. Anyways, that's all I got to say on that, so look forward to that to come. Thanks so much for tuning in and stopping by. I know this went a bit long, but it happens. I didn't want to skimp on talking about anything for the builds. In any case, share your thoughts, questions, comments, whatever else in the comment section down below, and until next time, Guardians, stay frosty.